Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hey guys, Matt Flanagan here from Appicus, and I've got another episode of the App Advisory Show. So if you're enjoying these sessions, make sure you sign up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google and all of those great platforms. It's great to have the feedback that we're getting, so make sure you subscribe, and if you want to give us a rating, that would be wonderful. Now today I'm delighted to have Paul Edwards from Harold Sharp. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Paul Edwards from Harold Sharp. I am an accountant first and foremost. I've been with the firm for 11, 12 years now, but the last 12 months, probably somewhere between 2 years, a year and 2 years, we've been pushing our digital advisory services out a little bit further, and trying to map out how we do that, how we offer it as a firm. Really is what we've been doing. Okay, so
what's your is that a name change, like from accountant to something else, or like what's your title now? Is that still in flux?
Officially, I think it's a digital advisor now.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, my time's split pretty much 50-50.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And you've been with your firm 11, 12 years, you said there. So has that been like what was it like when you first came in? I mean, I'll ask these questions on all the podcasts. Like, what's the role like today that you're performing compared to where you were when you sort of walked in the door?
Hugely different, I would say. Even just at this firm, I've been doing accountancy probably about 20 years now, but we still have red cash books, the odd Simplex D book, if anyone remembers those. When I first started, you still got bags of receipts, and then we moved towards Sage. Obviously, probably like Sage Line 50 for most clients, saying let's get things automated and pushing that in a big way. But you needed to be an accountant really with Sage. You couldn't, you needed to understand the double entry principles and things like that. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, probably we jumped onto Xero quite early on, I would say.
Okay.
We're a platinum partner with them now, and again, it's automating your systems, but it's doing it in a much easier way to use as an end user, so you don't have to be an accountant to use it anymore. And now it's about streamlining, and that's where our digital journey kind of started about 2 years ago. We put most of our clients onto Xero or some other cloud softwares, not Xero doesn't fit everybody, but we've got people onto the cloud. And then we kind of stopped. We're like, we've done it, patting ourselves on the back. And then it was like, no, we've not. We started looking at all the apps and the way that we could like bring in the next wave of improvements really for people.
Yeah. I think that'll resonate with like quite a lot of people. I think that journey as well, like you say with the firm, is it's those manual, and then Sage 50, still quite a prevalent piece of software in the UK market for sure. And then there's been that move to cloud. I think a lot of people will be listening and resonate with that journey. But I think it'll be interesting. Well, there'll be some maybe not quite realise that they're getting them onto like Xero or QBO, whatever tool it is. That is just the start. And I think a lot of firms think, oh, it's done. We've got them on there. That'll do. So it's been like, was there anything specific which you got to that realization of there's more than you can do, or was it the fact that the ecosystem's growing and you could see that like there's surely some of our clients would like this type of solution for them? Like, what was there anything specific that really got you thinking in this way?
I think probably trying to remember how long ago now, but probably about 3 years ago we did our XeroCon. Went to our first XeroCon, and it was just like you chatting to the guys on the store, and it was like, oh, we do this and we do that, and you're just like, God, that helps so many of our clients. And you go away with this massive book, and your LinkedIn things continuously for about a month after you get back, and it's just like there's so much more out there. And I think we probably took the first 12 months where we just started going, let's speak to everybody and anybody, and we didn't really have a plan to it. It was just let's speak to an app. If we think they're good, then we kind of not partner up with them necessarily, but certainly try and introduce them to a few clients, see how it works, get a feel for it, run demos. And like I say, the last 2 years, we've really kind of tried to streamline that process into let's make sure that for every client, we have a system that we can walk through with them that takes them from Xero to like our level 1, and then beyond that to make sure that they're getting the best and the most streamlined out of the process without having to understand the thousands and thousands of apps that exist now.
Yeah, so probably millions by the time I get to my 100th episode on the podcast. I'm sure there's going to be more. I think that's interesting as well. Like what you were saying there is that there will have been what some of those clients, or you put some of those clients on, let's say 2015, 2016, and what they got given at that point was possibly suffice for their business, and actually it could have maximized what Xero or whatever tool you put them on at that point. But I think in that period of time between then and now, the business is obviously could mature, grow, a little bit more complexity, but also what the core cloud accounting offering is changed as well. So I think that's why it's really important to keep in line with some of these businesses, because it could be they have changed, or actually the tool can now do something that would really benefit them. So I think that's a challenge for firms at the moment, isn't it, in general?
Yeah, I would say so. And even, I mean, I think we started with cash flow. That was like the first, because I think that was an Irish product originally.
Yeah, with a K.
Yeah, that's the one. And it was it was just a simplistic cash book, essentially. And now Xero on its own as a standalone product is a million miles on from that. But there's also, I mean, we'll probably talk about it later, but like invoice automation, now we would literally, anyone processing more than 10, 15 invoices a month would be like, well, use automation for it. It's like, there's no point manually inputting these things anymore. Let's not lose stuff. And it, like, whereas back then it was like, well, it's not really worth it for that many, like, just the way that we look at it has changed.
Yeah.
And if anything, we've probably gone full circle, and we end up, for some of our we call them outsourcing, like bookkeeping clients, we end up now getting a bag of receipts again. So, but it's just the way that we deal with it is massively different. It's just running through it. It takes 10 minutes rather than taking 4 days of somebody laboriously typing everything in. So
yeah, and these tools work 168 days, 168 hours a week. Don't sleep. They're available to us. So yeah, there's a good opportunity to use them as a full resource. Okay, so in terms of like the cloud, and I know where you're at, you've been involved in digital, you say, but have you been engaging with the digital systems, like you mentioned, Cashflow and Xero and the other cloud systems? Have you been engaging with them pre the digital systems team, digital solutions team arriving? What was your engagement with cloud in general?
Yeah, we did. Like we partnered with Xero early doors, and like I said, we put most clients onto that. We also work with Free Agent, QBO, and a little. I mean, Sage have massively caught up this year with their cloud offering. I think they'll probably admit themselves it was pretty poor to start with, and they just got gazumped. But they're like I think it's called Cloud Online Business Solutions or something now. Dead catchy, but it's actually not a bad system. And again, it's just finding the digital team has taken those 4 systems and said, well, generically, which one fits what type of client. So then we've got a starting point as a recommendation, and then under that, which apps suit each piece of kit the best. So, you know, if we went back to invoice automation, for a while HubDoc was free on Xero, so it'd be like, well, if you're using Xero, and let's get HubDocking because that's cheap. But maybe Receipt Bank's a better package, and that'll go into QBO. And it was just trying to get all those ducks in a row almost, so that we could all sing from the same hymn sheet. We all knew what we were doing, and we could all speak to a client about the basics. And I guess where we've taken it from there is there's 3 or 4 of us in our team now. Yeah, we just look at the next level of apps and how to integrate apps. I say it started, everything just plugged into Xero. You want a few apps and you plug them in, whereas now one app talks to another app, and then comes into Xero at the end. So it's just understanding those processes and trying to understand what different types of clients and what different setups work better for different clients. And generally that is just having a conversation with them about how their business works, what it does, how they do it, where the bottlenecks are, what they hate about doing business. Everybody has something that they hate doing, and 99% of the time there's a piece of kit out there that can help with that. So
yeah, it's good. I think it's where you mentioned that this integrated world of solutions, where it's like a bit Lego-y, where you can plug it in and on it goes. But I think you mentioned a point there about the data traction. Like it's almost data plumbing some of it now, because if you can get the tools which work together, but if you don't get the data flow right, you can end up being a mess as to what data has ended up where at what point. And I think that's really important, probably undervalued actually, because you're going to have to fix that data up at some point. But so why not have to fix it and try and get it right? But With that now, when you're speaking to clients and you understand that where this could go, and that there might be a little bit more complexity than we're just going to do some training on a cloud system, for example, have you moved into that world of charging for understanding their business, like the scoping, the finance function review, that type of thing? Is that something you do, and have you always done that? Have you come to the realization you've just got to do that in order to deliver a better service? Like, what's been your journey on that?
Yeah, we've definitely not always charged for that. It's been something, historically our clients get a year-end bill. We did move to like direct debit, so everyone pays, most of our clients now will pay monthly. But with that, everything's just included, you within reason, phone calls every year, everything like that. And as soon as we started integrating software, well, that's just you as my accountant, and I expect you to train me on it, to tell me which piece of software, to train me on it, to make sure it works, to make sure the integrations are all correct, and that the data at the end of it is how it should be. And they just kind of, it was expected of us to do it, and we just did it because we were thinking long term, this will make your records better, which makes our job easier, so we save money in the long run. And that was kind of our mentality, and to a point it was fair early on, but now, like, the ecosystem itself is that much more complicated. There is no one size fits all. There is a lot more. Like I said, you need to understand the business to understand what they need before you can offer anything, and that takes time. And we do charge for that now.
And I think on that, it's interesting what you're saying. Like, we'll get something further down the line out of it, and also as well, I think that's really interesting what you're saying about clients just expected that this would happen. So, like, I know we've spoken previously about this, but I actually think, like, saying to a client as early as possible, okay, yeah, we can do that, and this is this service which is not included in your current engagement, is just really important, isn't it, to make sure that the client has the clarity that this is something additional to what we agreed to work with you on.
Yeah, and it's certainly why they're having us as a separate team. I say I've got my own clients that I've had for years, and I say they will remain in the background, but that remains a big part of my job. Now we have, say for me, Thursday, Fridays every week, I'm just in the data team. I'm a digital advisor, and any of our clients can go, any of our staff, can say, I've got this client, he wants to know about this, he wants a CRM system, he wants to streamline this process, he wants to introduce a stock system. And it's like, fine, I will phone him, I'll introduce myself. I'm not from the accounts team or the tax team that he's worked with for years. I'm a new person who has a different role in the firm, and I have a different charging structure to the rest of the firm. And that certainly for us works a lot better, that it's a new person, because if it's the same person that does your accounts, it's very difficult to say, well, I've got a different hat on today, I'm going to charge you.
Agreed. I think that's a really good point. And isn't it, I think this is really strange how cloud accounting has merged into this world of just general accounting, right? Like, and I know in terms of a set of accounts is produced on the software is irrelevant, but when it affects how the workflow of a business and how they operate with you, and maybe you're starting to attend to some of their requirements, it's really weird. I can never quite work this out, because if I've had accountants and stuff in all sorts of guises, and if I've got a specific problem around personal tax or wealth or an opportunity, they go, yeah, okay, so it's not me. I'm going to go and get so and so to give you a call, and they'll go in depth on what the problem, how they can help, and there'll be a separate charge. But it's really weird with cloud accounting, and this is profession wide. We just seem to go, yeah, we'll swallow that and get on with it. It's really strange. I can never work it out. And actually, it's quite a specialist role, and you do need some experience, and you do need to practice it relatively frequently in order to keep your tool sharp and keep your mind in it. And it's really strange. I've never quite got my head around why that's the case, really.
I don't think like, you're right on the terms of it is a specialism in its own right. There is no way. When we looked at it to start with, and it was like, we'll do a bit of it. We'll all do a bit of it. And very quickly we realized that the systems move so quickly, and even you might have one app and you think, oh, it does this. So you kind of shoehorn it and say, this app does this thing. And then you go back 6 months later and it actually now does 2 or 3 of the things that the other apps do. So your flow chart of what you would introduce to a business, you're like, well, we were going to introduce these 3 apps to do this job, but now this one does it all. So that all gets binned, and it is a constant spinning plates just to make sure that you keeping up with the updates that everyone's providing for you.
Yeah, yeah, and also as well, that's a really good, if you can master that as a firm, and then passing that information onto clients is really valuable as well. One for retaining, one for attracting new clients, but also for, you know, offering new work, new refresher training, new updates, whatever it might be. It's a great opportunity from the vendors that's given to the account, which I think is just missed a little bit sometimes. So it's good that you've got your team and you're building that, which is excellent. Okay, so you sound pretty enthused, Paul, by this cloud world. So what personally, like what's been the enjoyment? What are you getting out of this digital advisor role, which is sort of keeping you rolling into it every day?
I guess it's probably a double-edged sword, but the amount of just learning, it's doing something that is still accounting, but it isn't accounting anymore, not as we know it. The statutory side of accounting is gone, and it is very much more business advisory, which a lot of accountants have in accountants and business advisors, but very limited business advice. Whereas now I feel quite comfortably I could walk into 90% of the clients within our firm, have a sit down with them and say, I can make what you do, I can do what you do better. Yeah. We've already had some pretty big wins that way from just a really simple switching somebody onto Stripe and saving them a ton of card fees. I think one of my clients saved about £60,000 a year just from switching from one system to another. And others where we just literally rip out the accounts department and say, you don't need that anymore. You know, they come because they're struggling and go, oh, what do you reckon we could, you know, what can we do? And you just look at it and go, you've got 3 people in your accounts team. With all the best will in the world, we can streamline that. You need one person probably to do everything that you're doing now, if you're prepared to embrace what we're going to tell you. So, you know, there's big chunks of money to be saved. It's an investment up front, obviously, if we want paying for our time, but there's genuine. I couldn't sell a product that I didn't believe in. And to be, that's what I enjoy, to be able to go out and say, actually, we can fix this, we can make things better.
I think with that Stripe like that one there, and I think this is the point, right? So £60,000 saving, amazing. The actual complexity for somebody who's been working this of like setting up a Stripe, integrating it with whatever cloud accounting system, and then a little bit of training on this is how it runs. I mean, in terms of like effort from yourself, not a huge amount, but a £60,000 saving to a client, well, that's one, it's waxing lyrical about you guys to anybody else who listen, and also it's how's that client ever going to leave? Like, you know, what a saving. That's really making it ultimately mega return on investment. So I think that's, you know, really interesting. But again, it's like how you charge for that, right? Because it might take you 3 hours to do that and you save 60 grand. So, but then you're into a different mindset because you know what you're saving when you're getting into that conversation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you don't know that they're going to save that going into it. That was just, we were having a conversation, and then we were having a look. I was like, oh, what's your big thing? And it, you know, he was an e-commerce trader, and it's just like, you know, the big things for us are my advertising, my Google clicks, and all the rest of it, and my card fees. You know, I'm doing loads of little transactions, and they're taking a cut every time, and we're just like, right, well, give us a couple of bills, and we'll see what we can do with it. I say it wasn't really digital advisory, but it was because we knew that there was other people out there that did better than the existing.
I think that also shows that that no matter how basic the solution, I wouldn't class Stripe as a really complex solution. It's, you know, it takes payments, and you know, once you get your head around the integration with the cloud accounting, it's a relatively standard piece of kit. But again, talk about not needing to know 900 apps, needing to know one payment app, which makes a huge difference, and how that can work after doing a bit of analysis on how they currently work. Hugely valuable, and we haven't had to go and learn, you know, have umpteen days of training off the actual app, and that's been having the ability to spot the problem and work out that you've got a solution for that.
Yeah, and again, that's one thing that we've worked on as a team, that we can go out and we have almost a crib sheet that we can work through, and we can say, you know, how do you use this part of your accounts function? How do you use this part of your accounts function? And then we can, as soon as they tell us, normally there's things that just jump out straight away, and other things you have to dig a little bit deeper to really understand what the problem is, because what they think the problem is normally isn't the problem, or not normally, but sometimes that isn't the problem. That's just the way they see it, and the problem is somewhere further down the line.
I think also as well, I think, and I'd definitely try and educate firms on this, so if there's anybody listening, when you go into those conversations, and I would call it a finance function scorecard, you've got your crib sheet in terms of, I want to learn a little bit about your finance function and what you do. And I imagine, I just want to ask you how you handle this, right? Because they'll say something and you know the answer. So they'll go, this is the problem. And I think this is the key, right? Is I see so many firms give the gold away straight away. And it doesn't always solve the problem, because the client goes, okay, I've got a name or something now, but I still don't know how to implement or work that or understand how it fits. So I think the key is to take the problems, even if you know like what 90% of the solution is going to be, is to go away, digest that, and offer that as a piece of valuable advice. And I think sometimes we're happy to please go, oh yeah, go and look at Stripe, or oh yeah, go and look at credit control system X, Y, Z. And I think if you just take that time and bite your tongue before you say it, and then think about how you can offer that as a service or an implementation or whatever it might be. How has that been for you? Because we all want to please people, right? We always want to show that we know what we're talking about and validate we know what we're talking about, and this is a worthwhile conversation. So how have you worked out how to bite your tongue, or do you not bite your tongue and you give it them all, and then they've got to work with you anyway?
Honestly, we're getting better at it. It is like you said, it's very difficult to say, and we've had, because the directors kind of gave us the remit to redevelop the digital offering that we've got as a firm. So we went back and we obviously like gave our big project to the director, and here's what we're going to do. So we had a few client meetings early doors that the directors come into, and they were just like, oh, you use this, and then we were like, like, yes, you can. There's other offerings. We're better at it. I don't think you ever get perfect. Like I say, you kind of want to show off sometimes as well.
I agree.
And different clients are different. Like we've got some, very good fee-paying clients, and for the amount that they pay, they just get, we're not going to charge them separately. If we think of something in any way that can help them, we'll just phone them up and tell them, like, here's what you
need. I'd agree. Yeah, I don't think it's a blanket approach, but I think it needs to be a considered approach. Yeah. You've got a great value client, and it's a great relationship, and it's well worth it. To give them that information as a value add makes perfect sense. I just think it can't be a blanket approach of, you've got somebody who's paying pittance, you give them all this, and then you can't return that. So I agree with you. It's a considered approach. There'll be some clients who are, very valuable to you just in terms of relationship as well. That it's worth giving this information to, but I think you do have to consider who the client is and what your relationship is with them when you do that.
Try and do that before we go into the meeting. We know whether this is just we're going to just sort out a problem for them. Because we've got scope in our fee structure, or we're right up to the wire with this one, probably gone beyond it in truth.
Yes.
With others, and we say it has to be whatever we recommend, whatever time we spend has to be chargeable time, because there is no space in our quote for this one. And like I say, sometimes things slip out, but we're getting better.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting about you having to nudge the directors to say, stop giving away the gold, or stop chucking these in, because I think there'll be a lot of firms like that where you're supporting either the client manager or the client partner, and they'll want to show that they know a bit about this tech world, and they'll go, oh, it's system X, Y, and Z we can look at. So there is a bit of education, isn't there, up and down the chains with this world.
Yeah. It's exactly that, and as I say, nobody gets it right first time. It has been a massive learning curve for us the last 18 months. I feel that we're in a position now where we do have specific digital offerings, so we do health checks and things like that, which are just completely non-accountancy based. We obviously have more general digital advisory where we will speak to clients and come up with solutions, and we just try and build up different offerings that we can now make through our own softwares and through implementing stuff to client software. So
fair enough. Cool. Okay, well that was quite a lengthy question about personal enjoyment out of cloud, and we got a good answer, so excellent. In terms of in a nutshell, in terms of favorite apps and systems, that can be personal apps, it can be whatever, like what's a couple on your radar that you enjoy working with, or you always think are really well valued, or over to you.
I mean, I imagine if you're doing this with several people, you're going to get the same answer several times. For me, if we're going to exclude just the accounting softwares themselves, like anything for invoice automation. So I'll throw Receipt Bank in. Probably the pinnacle of that. But Hubdoc, Data Molino, any of those. that bring in invoice automation. They're huge. They save huge amounts of time. They increase accuracy.
Yeah.
And they're just so easy to use. They take literally no effort. For me, probably my favorite app is TransferWise. I love it.
Yeah,
for the kind of clients that I work with doing payment runs. If anyone's out there doing payment runs and you go to, you're in Xero, I'm going to pay Dave and I'm £100, log off, go onto your bank. You have to log in again with your blinking card swiping machine. It takes forever. And it's one of the things that I hear again and again in those kind of businesses, that they hate it. And you go, well, don't do that. TransferWise.
Yeah, okay.
And then as a kicker, if you're paying people in foreign currencies, it's obviously you get a much more beneficial rate than just using your bank transfer abroad, which one of my guys was paying 15 quid every transfer abroad and getting a bad exchange rate on it. You just like, don't do that. Stop that. Use this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I find TransferWise and other similar systems, actually, I find them polarizing in terms of firms. Some firms are absolutely into them, a bit like, I think you're the first person who's mentioned TransferWise and one of their favorite ones. But then I'll speak to other firms and I can't stand those apps and systems. I just don't get them, or we've not got on with them. So very polarizing, I find some of those tools at the moment is they're a bit like Marmite. Either they're in or they're out, and there's no middle ground with them.
Probably depends on what your accounts, the businesses that I deal with generally have a proper accounts team. So it is about, it adds that level of, you don't have to go to the director like you probably did back in the day. I've got these people I'm going to pay, can you write me checks for them? We kind of take, that then happens automatically. So they're getting the approval, coming back, putting it through the system.
Yeah, okay.
It just provides it. Here's a list, Mr. Director, of all the people that I'm going to pay. I've set it all up. You need to transfer this amount of money across, and it's done. But like I say, if you weren't at that level, if you're just managing it all yourself, like I say, the benefit probably isn't, one-man band running your own company, or you're in control of your own accounts function as a director. Then the value probably drops down a little bit. But again, different solutions for different people, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's good to hear. Like, I think you're just giving some insight as to where you've seen it work and the type of scenarios, and that'll be useful for people. So good. That's the first one. I've not heard that one before, but that's good. So in terms of this sort of cloud journey, and you mentioned sort of rebuilding a digital offering that was already there. Like, what's been the challenge, like, for personally and sort of business wise with doing this? Like, what's been, and I think this is I find this point in the conversation only resonates the most with people, because obviously this is change is difficult. So it's just anything that's sort of resonate with you that's been challenging or more difficult.
Challenges are keeping on top of it all. I say it's easy to say. I think we started off and we said we're going to have a day a week where we're going to work on it across 3 people, and then that's kind of expanding so we need more time. It does take time, and you don't see instant results. Honestly, it probably took us 6 months until we had an offering out there where we could say we need to stop doing this for free, we need to charge for it, we need, here's a standalone product that we can now offer. To get to the stage where you're comfortable offering it, time is the big one. And I know certainly through COVID, furlough claims and everything else that got kind of pushed onto accountants last year was tough, but we have been fully supported. I've got to say that from the directors at our place, they still said, we want you to, we all see it as the future at our place. So they were able and comfortable to say, have the time that you need, make it work, which was good. And then keeping on top of it, like I say, there's always something new, and it's a double-edged sword. It's great because there's always something new to learn and play with, and it's bad because to keep on top of it, you genuinely need to keep on top of it and keep looking, keep exploring, and keep re-demoing the same product sometimes. If it's one of your key, certainly like our big key products, we'll probably re-demo that every 6 months just to make sure we've not missed an update. Because you work in the app world, you'll probably see once you start signing up to these apps, you'll get invited onto webinar after webinar, to update after update, and you just don't have time to watch them all and keep up with them all. So
I think just pick up one point there. I think I've seen that firsthand, that the firm has really backed this digital offering. So I think that's been really, really great. But I think you just mentioned something there, which we've probably not discussed on any previous podcast, about that. It's not immediacy in the return. It is very much as an upfront investment of time and money in terms of people and resource and that type of thing in order to get a return. So I think there'll be firms listening who, maybe having, well, a couple of weeks, we'll give this a go, and then there's going to be a return. I think if you're truly going to get some proper services out there and really start to scale those a little bit, then you do have to spend some time sort of planning and organising and bringing this together, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. There's so many different elements to it as well, that when we started off, we're like, oh, we can do this, and this. But what happens is they all kind of all of them just want to merge with each other all the time. You're like, no, that's a separate offering. In this situation, this is the offering. In this situation, this is the offering. And just trying to put barriers up. And again, keeping our staff educated. I know you said before, nobody likes change. I'm probably one of the worst for it. If someone says, oh, I need you to stop doing what you've done for the last 20 years and do this instead on a piece of kit, you're just like, well, all right. But you don't really embrace it.
No.
But like I say, our staff have been very good, and we do like lunch and learns, we do updates. The plan was to do face-to-face training sessions in the office, which that got cancelled very early last year, but we've still managed to keep on top of it and keep pushing people, and it's reminding people, don't forget to use this. Can you just, and we find it's kind of gone the other way now, because our offering is now there. We can go to any job and pick it up and go, you did it. We can just do quick reviews, if we use Avia or something like that, and we can say, well, you didn't pick up some of these errors that we picked up in 30 seconds.
Yes.
If you've done what we asked you to do, then you could have saved yourself 2 or 3 hours, but also it's a better offering to the client because we've just found all these different mistakes, and it opens up a conversation for us to then have with the client of how we can.
Yeah, because I think that's key, isn't it? Because what you're saying there as well is that's you're evidencing that, okay, we went through this routine and method that we've had for a while. We're trying to favour this new way of working, but even so now we can do a little bit of due diligence after the event, and then you can do them side by side, which is really good evidence rather than this hunch of, in theory, I think this is going to be better and, we should get something out of it. I think we go those practical evidence points. It's a lot, I think it's a lot better to help get people on board with this.
Yeah, and it's easier with the clients as well. I mean, I'm sure this is accountants watching this, so everyone's had that client who brings in the records. Is everything all right? Yeah, everything's smashing. I've done it all. It's all perfect. All right. You start working on it, you realize it's not. As you start to get into it, the bank is reconciled by a journal adjustment, and it's like, whoa. But you've probably spent a day before you've realized what problems are, and you can't list everything that you spot. You're just kind of fixing it as you go and patching it up.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end and you go, oh, I've got 2 days that I've spent, and it was just bad. The records were just poor records, and you can't justify it specifically. Whereas what we have now is a system where we can say, your records weren't great. Here was your score. We give everyone a score when they come in. This was your score. This is why it's a score. Here's 108 issues that we had in your system. And here's line by line what they are, or what they were at least. Yeah. And we can either say to the client, you can fix it, or we can fix it. But in terms of a non-monetary win, that's it. We write off a lot less WIP.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. Good way of using it. Okay, so you're a little bit into this, and you've been re-architecting essentially like a new digital advisory services. So if you were starting over, go back a couple of years when this sort of kicked off for your firm, is there anything you might have done a little bit differently or looked at doing differently, having been where you're at now? Is there any sort of blind alleys you've been down or anything like that in terms of, for those that are going to start this and after they've listened to this podcast, for example?
You probably don't demo every software. If you go into like Zero Eco Space, if you go into there, and that's where we started typing in, invoice automation, and it pulls up 3,000 apps. There's no way that you can use them all, and there's probably little ones. We've got our own app stack now, so we will have tiny little nuances that we just highlight and say, if somebody does deal in foreign currencies, then this system might be slightly better. But you just want to pick 1 or 2. They'll normally be the first ones that pop up. They'll be the ones that are the highest rated. It's an easier system to go down. Get it, run with it, get them in place. And then once that's in place, you can start looking at the apps underneath and say, well, why does this one exist? It exists because it does this niche little bit that the others don't. And just note it. You don't have to learn it. You don't need to demo it. You just need to know it exists. That would be probably where we spent a lot of time early doors, really looking at far too many apps.
Yeah, I think that's really good point. And I think sometimes what can throw you off kilter with that is you start, let's say you speak to your first 10, 20 clients and it's more exploratory about what they're doing and what they could do. And you might get someone who's got a really peculiar requirement which doesn't need one of the standard, let's say, invoice automation. It's got some weird and wacky thing it needs. And then you start to think, well, hold on, if we've got loads of clients like that, I better learn this. But you've got to sort of try and hedge your bets whether, is this 1 in 100 or 1 in 200? Or is this 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 that are going to have this? So I think sometimes we try and learn for every eventuality. And ultimately, we're probably going to see that once, aren't we, when we go through that?
That's probably where we started. And now, like I said, we do have not all of them, but we've got half a dozen nuances. Yeah. Just taking voice automation as an example. And we'd say, if you're dealing with foreign transactions, Chinese, I've got one of my clients deals with Chinese. So it translates all the invoices as it scans them in. It's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. And we say, well, for you, that probably works better than our main offering. We don't necessarily support it. I can't necessarily train you on it, but we know it exists. So we can still help the client. We take a little bit of a back step and say, we can make sure it's working when things are coming in.
Yeah.
But let's not get too excited about us learning the ins and outs of that system, because and all the rest of it, it's just not worth it.
So in your world, for that particular scenario, if that comes up again, all you're doing is recommending. You're not really going to get involved in training, and you will do some integration testing just to check that the data's coming across okay. But in general, it's very much a recommend and referral, rather than you're going to take on the burden of, taking all the phone calls about why it doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Whereas one of your standard invoice automation tools, you'll be happy taking those calls because it's your bread and butter for the majority of your clients in that space.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, final question. Let's say we might physically get together in 2022, but let's say we get back together in sort of 12 months' time. Like, what do you hope to have achieved? Like, what's on your radar, either individually or as a firm, or a bit of both?
For us, we feel like we've got our basic app offering now in place. So for us, we're looking to be sector specific and probably step away from necessarily just financial or accounting apps.
Yep.
So let's have a look at booking systems. Let's have a look at CRM systems.
Yeah.
Because we feel that's like the natural next step, so that we could take on a barber and we can say, you need an accounts piece of software, but also how about a booking system that feeds into all of this? And let's just expand our horizons a little bit and become genuine business advisors. And let's look at apps that we can use. So for us, it'll be reporting, how we can report information to our clients in a new interest, in a way that they can understand.
Yeah.
And probably getting back to, there's apps out there now, which is what on my radar for the current year, which is just assessing people's costs. If you are a barber and you're spending £100 a month on barber side, how does that compare to the industry? Can we save money? There's pieces of kit out there that will start looking at benchmarking and reviewing costs for you. So that'll probably be where we go next in the next 12 months.
Okay. So you're going to move into that. So again, get your finance function offering in place. Yeah. But I think this is an interesting thought, actually, in terms of, you go and speak to that barber, and then there's like a booking system, there's online payments, online bookings. I know a couple of systems linking with Facebook pages and websites and stuff. But I think you're right. There is going to be some of that. But if you were to be specialist in barbers, then it's repeatable, right? So it's going to be a similar story. You won't necessarily just have one app for each area. You might have 6 or 7 alternatives that you might use depending on whether they're multi-site, single site, mobile, all those types of things. But I think that sector, and I call them operational, what they're going to use in terms of actually running the business, I think that's quite a neat move. But you've got to master one, haven't you? Get that right, get the process, and then replicate over to something else once you've got that. And you do start to go into that finance and operational area. You mentioned CRM, which is sales as well. So I think that's an interesting move, and I can see there's not really many consultants or anything who really fit that bill in the SME land. You might get a CRM specialist, which is a lot more marketing based. Excuse me. So I can see that being an interesting move. Okay, that's good.
And we have sector specialisms already that we can just bolt onto that.
Yes.
Then we know we've got 10 clients in the industry, and then we can push it out to try and win more of those kind of clients.
Yeah.
So that's our game plan.
Yeah, it's great for existing clients, and if you can get that specialism linked in with digital technology adoption for that sector, then it does become an attraction for new clients, doesn't it, as well, within that space. Right, that's been absolutely fantastic, Paul. Really, really good insight. So thanks a lot for taking a bit of time with us and sharing some of your experience, knowledge and insight. So cheers, Paul, for that. Not a problem.
It was useful to somebody.
No, I think it was. I think, well, you brought TransferWise into the new app. So somebody will be listening to that who was maybe on the fence with it. So I'm sure there'll be lots to say that. But I also think the journey that you're going through and, some of the stuff that's worked really well, and then some of the challenges you've had, I mean, that's always really insightful for other people going through that. So thanks a lot for that, Paul. To anyone listening or watching, there'll be some more episodes coming. We've got quite a heavy schedule for 2021. And you can get us on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere else where podcasts go. And there'll be links all over our website and social media. So pick up. But just to finish off, thanks a lot for that, Paul. And see you again soon.
See you later, guys. Cheers.